Welcome back to another episode of Learn with Shavern. So in today's episode, we are going to talk about the self-driving car and some manufacturers that are currently putting together some prototypes. A couple of manufacturers have already released a few prototypes of the self-driving vehicle. Or they call it the robot car, right? The robotic car. And we know from last week that CES dropped a few, self-driving or self-propelled robotic things such as a smart house and so forth. I believe there was even like a robotic taxi. So it's a self-driving taxi car that just picks you up at your home. We saw the walking car, right? So I guess this self-driving car kind of factors in with all of that, which is pretty cool. You have some investors like Elon Musk who are into, he's really passionate about, according to what I read, like Elon Musk apparently is pretty passionate about the self-driving car. He's made all of these, what seems like wild predictions to analysts in terms of the direction that we're moving in with technology. I don't really feel that he's very, or his ideas are very far-fetched in this direction that we're moving in terms of technology. So I think it is fully possible to have a self-driving vehicle, to have a fully autonomous vehicle that can model over, or can drive over all terrains. So there were a few manufacturers of self-driving vehicles actually, anywhere from Google, like Elon Musk is not the only one, right? So Google, I believe, is looking into a self-driving vehicle. And I don't believe that they have released a prototype yet. It is something that's in the works that they may be drafting plans for or have an idea to move in a direction to do. Uber, right? Which is interesting because all these Uber drivers out here, especially the ones like in the big cities like New York City and California and stuff, and like Miami, these cities where these Uber drivers and Lyft drivers out here making like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, sometimes $100,000 in Lyft rides, right? Because they're busy. They're in those high traffic areas where people use them more often than not. If we have self-driving vehicles, Uber has been a place of employment, and Lyft and all these other taxi services, right? They've been a place of employment for quite a lot of people, especially even as a secondary means of income. So if we do away with that motion, what does that mean for those drivers? Furthermore, there's also, let me see, they said Google, Uber, there was another, Nissan. Nissan's coming out with a self-driving vehicle too. There's all these different manufacturers, right? Those are just a few that I named. But there's all these different manufacturers who are looking into the self-driving vehicle. The Uber one kind of hit home. Not that I drive Uber or nothing, but I do know a few people that drive for like Lyft and stuff. And so the first thing that came to mind was like, dang, what's gonna happen with their source of income, right? I know we live in a hustle and bustle type of society, or at least some of us do. But that was a legit concern there. So I know we've been talking a lot about technology in terms of our safety and security and privacy and how invasive that can be. What about our jobs? Is technology coming in a direction where like it's replacing human employment? Because that, out of all the concerns, like generating income is a big deal. Because without generating income, how does one survive, right? Especially if they're moving in the motion of having money even be virtual, right? Having virtual money, cryptocurrency, right? If we're moving in that direction, I don't foresee that having paperless money. I don't foresee us doing that for a very, very long time. However, the fact that we've started it now, I consider these like test pilots, right? They're testing it out to see how it works. I think that the reason why there's so many is so that they can see the variety of different circumstances, kind of play with like a formula, right? It's kind of like there's scientists doing an experiment to see which one. Same reason why like the projects was developed, right? In every major city, there's a project. If you guys ever in any city Google the history behind why a project was made, the name speaks for itself as to why it was created. So I personally feel like experiments like that have never ceased to exist. They have just evolved and been renamed. So anyhow, I digress. Moving on to the self-driving vehicle. So there are 5 levels to the self-driving vehicle, ranging from 0 autonomy to full autonomy. What does that mean? The 0 autonomy self-driving vehicle is a vehicle where a human is required, like your standard vehicle that you use today. However, it has a function where it can require less autonomy, right? Excuse me, it can require more autonomy. So, and autonomy means independence, for those of you who are not sure. So the car can be from 0 independence to fully independent, in other words, simply put. But the way that they classified it was like they used the word autonomy in there. So anyhow, the 0 autonomy, like I said, is a standard driving vehicle. Then you have the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5. And the 5 is the fully functional autonomous vehicle. Of course, there are going to be dollar amounts associated with this. From a few of the articles that I read, I did not see any specific dollar amounts on these newer prototypes that are being released. However, I don't foresee this being like a cheap vehicle. This ain't gonna be like an affordable battery car or something like that, okay? At least not at first. When they first released it, it's kind of like the cell phone, you know. Y'all remember in the 90s when the cell phone was first released, like only rich people could afford cell phones. The big, bulky, clunky things, right? Only rich people could afford it. So it was just like with anything else, anything new that's released is gonna be for the top layer of the pyramid before it trickles its way on down to us common folk, right? The fully autonomous vehicle, it is actually really dope. I'll share the link below for you guys. They show like this 3D virtual screen, and on the screen it shows the car, and it shows like a 3D view of like wherever the car is and its geography, and it shows it like going over the terrain of wherever it's driving. I thought that was really cool. It was kind of like a very like upgraded new age GPS, but just one, like a holographic GPS is kind of what it looked like to me anyway. And from my perception, it's kind of what it looked like, a holographic GPS. So the self-driving vehicle, apparently they are still testing out quite a few things. They are measuring, is it safer than a standard vehicle where it has 0 autonomy, right? Where a human is driving it. They're doing the numbers on that. Here's a scary thought. In order for them to test how safe a self-driving vehicle is, as opposed to how unsafe it is, they measure this based on fatality. Meaning people dying, right? Or people getting hurt. Like the crash test dummies and stuff. If you guys have ever seen any of the videos on a crash test dummy, they have to measure those things. But we see how accurate that is. If you own a vehicle and you Google the crash test for your year, make, and model of your car, or if you've gotten into an accident in the past, right, with your vehicle, and you Google the year, make, and model, the crash test for that vehicle, I want you, if you've had an accident before, to compare that crash test video that you're watching with the dummy compared to your own accident, if you've ever had one, with that same year, make, and model, right? And I want you to tell me from your own personal experience to this experiment with the crash test dummy, how different that is. Please do comment below on that, because I'm so interested to hear. In addition to that, if they come out with a self-driving vehicle, you know, how are insurance companies going to insure self-driving vehicles? Are premiums going to be way cheaper now because the risk of accidents will be lower? There's a lot of factors. Will that put insurance companies out of business? I doubt that one. That one seems a little far-fetched. We're going to chuck that whole idea about it putting out of business. They'll find a way to make money because it's corporate America. Big business always finds a way to make money. One thing, they have the resources to adapt quickly to any circumstances or situation. So drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys think about the self-driving vehicle. Do you think this is a good direction we're moving in, or do you think that this is a ridiculous direction that we're moving in? Thank you guys so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, becoming Patreons. Peace and blessings, family.